Environmental Resource Task Force, July 12th at 10:05 a.m. So, invocation, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome. All right. So, roll call. Mary Rose? would you like to start?
Mary Rose Spalletta, present.
Rose Larkin, present.
Wendy DiGaetano, present.
Jennifer Rusk, present.
Steve Johnson, present.
Chad Schutz, town staff, present.
All right, so absent is Dr. Fossum, Rob Howell, and our staff liaison, Bill Beach. So let's go to approving the agenda. I have one item here, I suppose, that I'd like to...
I don't have a copy of the agenda.
Okay.
I just have it online. I don't have a physical copy. I don't think we have any of them with us.
Want me to text it to you?
I have a physical copy. I wrote on it. If you'd like to look at it.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Your name?
Leon Moyer. I got it from Town Hall yesterday.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
Moyer, he's
you.
visited the Murph group before, so...
He is a familiar face.
Yes, he is. He's a man about town.
That too.
So, for the update, the final agenda, I had asked Chad about the staff update, and I see that you've left that off again. So my question really to Murph, is that a value to get a staff update every
Oh,
month?
that's a great idea. Can we add that to the agenda now? I move that we add staff update to the
I would
agenda.
second that.
As of today. Yeah.
Do you have, can you tell us a little bit about what's been going on, or?
Sure, so if you want to continue.
Well, actually, I have to
with
finish the agenda.
We'll put it on the agenda.
But also in the future, I mean, is that a problem? I think, in order for us to understand what's going on out there, you're the guy on the, on the street and can just let us know a little bit what's going on. So, I mean, they potentially could come up agenda items, stuff like that. So the format, whatever it is obviously entirely up to you. We're not giving you items in the staff update. It's just a matter of what's on your mind and what's going on.
Yeah, we do get a lot of questions. A lot of people ask us about the burn project.
Well, just things going on in the beach too.
Sure.
It'd be helpful to understand in advance, maybe if there's issues. So, perfect. Thank you, Chad. Otherwise,
And we're going to try and keep that on the agenda as a matter of...
I think so.
of
It's just
course.
part of a
Yeah, I think it's
standing-
worthwhile, yeah.
Yep.
As much as approving agenda,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I make a motion to approve.
And I'll second that
Okay.
motion.
Perfect. Any objection? Okay. Motion carries unanimously. And that is Wendy and Jennifer with the second. I'm going to start paying better attention to that and do it for the recording. So, approve previous meeting minutes. You all received these in advance.
Yes, we just got them, but I noticed that they were finished on June 20th. Chad, could you get them to us sooner than the
Yeah,
day of the meeting?
I haven't had time to...
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't
Yeah.
realize I was
assuming we got
on vacation earlier this week.
Oh, is that what it...
When
Yeah.
came out.
No, I just got it this
Oh,
morning, actually.
I
did too.
haven't
And I
had
did read it,
time
but...
to-
I didn't even
go
have
over
the
it.
email this morning, so I didn't realize that actually. So,
But absolutely, I generally try and just pump it out to you all as soon as I get it.
You're right, that's the best.
would you prefer that we include this for next
If you
meeting?
don't mind, I would appreciate that because I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve prior meeting minutes for the meeting held on Wednesday, June 14th at our August meeting.
Yes. What was that?
Is there a second?
6/14, was that the date of that, 6/14?
6/14, that's
you.
correct. Okay, any objection? Okay, so motion carries unanimously. All right, public comment. We do have a guest in the house. I'm assuming you came to speak.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson, and I don't have much prior to your meeting here.
Okay, can you introduce yourself first? You know, yep.
Leon Moyer. My address on my driver's license is 100 Chapel Street, because when I came down here 8 years ago, or 10, the chapel by the sea was helping out the homeless people. And I came down from Colorado, just bought a boat, and was kind of homeless. So they let me use their address to get a Florida driver's license. So I can claim to be a Fort Myers Beach resident at 100 Chapel Street, even though I live on a boat.
Okay.
So if you have any questions regarding voting issues, I know you're not the Anchorage Advisory Committee, might be more appropriate for some things, but things are changing rapidly around here. For instance, yesterday, Bonita Bills put locks on all their water faucets outside. They don't want people getting water. That's going to hurt a lot of people who came in there with their dinghies to get water for their boats.
Was there a problem there, Leon? Is that why they did
They
that?
won't talk about it.
I
Can't
see.
engage.
They're not making improvements over there because I think it's eventually going to sell. Yeah, and that things are going to change. But anyway, my only comment for you folks here today, I thank you for serving. I'm concerned about boat launch places around the island, particularly the Bayside. I know you talked about beach accesses today on your agenda. So if you can talk about kayak, rowboat launches, and like Virginia Avenue, I think has a boat launch that goes right down, it's paved into the canal. So your opinions on those might be worthwhile to pass on to council. I enjoy listening to your work today.
Okay, thank you for joining us today. We love guests, Mr. Moyer, and we will take that into consideration today during that section. Okay, so that's the end of public comment. Let's jump into current items, and the first on the amended agenda would be staff update. So what's been going on, Chad? Anything worthwhile?
Sure, so if you haven't already read, the berm is on pause for environmental concerns or environmental compliance with shorebird nesting. So we're going to be waiting to finish the remaining segments mid-September after the chicks have fledged. Having said that, everything seems to be going well, or went well with our contractor, and I'm glad that we got it down, what we could get down before hurricane season.
Is there more sand coming, Chad? Or is it all out there?
Yes, ma'am. So we have about 80% of the shoreline feet laid down, and an additional 20% is remaining. And that's mostly in the southern region of the island where we have shorebird nesting.
Right.
So
all those piles down by the Wyndham, is that because of the nesting? They can't be spread? They're still all
correct.
intact up
Correct.
there?
They were within the buffer zone, and
Right.
just better to let the chicks roam around over there and do what they're doing, and stay out of the news
Yeah.
for the wrong reasons.
You had presented, I think, at the last town council meeting or one of the previous couple, but that there's potentially is more sand that's through the state, or, and the reason I'm asking is because we're going to talk about accesses.
Yep. So we have a list of projects that we're going to be seeking additional state funding for, so we'll see what happens.
Gotcha. Perfect. All right. Anything else?
Yep. So as far as May was concerned, we had good water quality, hadn't had much rain yet. Red tide, it kind of petered out, and having said that, the Estero Bay and all of the water inputs that we're getting into there, I don't know if any of y'all keep up with Calusa Waterkeeper, but 37% of the sites that they're testing passed. However, 63 failed, and a lot of those are Caloosahatchee and Estero Bay sites, so that's a concern. And probably the greatest existential threat to our environment right now is Lake Okeechobee, and all the water and nutrients that are coming down that way. The lake is high, and we are going to be used as the outlet, we being Caloosahatchee. Shorebirds are having a successful season over here, which is good. I heard that there's a coyote that is causing sea turtle nests to be caged and chased off the shorebirds rookery over on Marco Island. So, it's a testament to the program on the southern island and the success that we're having down there on Carlos Point Beach. Hundreds of black skimmer nests, least terns, and snowy plovers are having a great year for nesting.
Can I ask you a question? So you keep up with Marco Island's bird nesting?
Keep up might be an overstatement. I hear things.
From who?
From friends.
He lives down there.
Oh, you live there. Okay, I see. I didn't know if you are you in touch with the environmental position that you're in down in Marco Island? No.
Not often. Is that all?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
As y'all know, I'm sure you've seen the street lights look like they've been outfitted. There are some issues with some of the side streets kind of being tilted, and it's amazing the slightest tilt on an LED towards the beach can make it really visible. So working with not LCEC, FP&L to address those side street lights that were affected by the hurricane winds. And I think that's about it.
Excellent. Great. Any questions for Chad? No?
Once the temporary berm is completed, Chad, will all the whole length of it will be entitled to plantings?
So we're going to be coming back with the renourishment project. The berm was about on the order of 80,000 cubic yards, maybe 90, pushing 90, or coming up to 90. The renourishment is going to be 1.1 million cubic yards. The berm is placed by truck, so it's easy to say here, not there, there, not here. Whereas the renourishment is going to be a dredge, so you're going to be spewing a slurry of sand onto the beach, and it's not as controllable as what you can do with a truck. So rather than plant and have them destroyed with the renourishment project, we're going to wait till after the renourishment project to plant in accordance with the dune management plan for those properties that have signed the easement.
Have we allocated a certain dollar amount on what we're going to be spending on dune plants?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much is that?
I don't have that figured offhand.
Okay, if you don't mind getting that for us, I'd appreciate it. Also, is there going to be specific areas where the planting will take place? Is it just going to be town properties, or are we going to help our community with planting these dunes?
So all the properties that sign the easement,
Yeah,
we don't already have vegetation, they will, in accordance with the dune management plan, receive plants.
right, MBZ basically, right?
Sorry?
The people that will actually get to do plantings outside of the town are those that sign the MBZ, correct? The managed beach zone,
Well, those that sign the
which would be the dunes that are formed in order to get the sand, or is there other areas that would receive?
so those that sign the easement will get the plants.
Right. So as you guys can recall, the managed beach zone, we worked on it probably a year and a half ago, which requires 75% of the width of the lot to plant a dune. So that's where the vegetation, I suppose, would go. Yeah.
And has the town gone into a contract with a business that will be helping with the planting of the dunes?
No.
Will the property owners get to choose which kind of plants that they would like?
Yes, ma'am. So the project plan that y'all reviewed a while ago gave them 3 choices.
Mhm.
3 different planting regimes that they can choose. Absolutely, we just put out a postcard and asking people to sign up by July 31st. We're going to be finalizing construction plans for the renourishment, so if they don't sign up, we're assuming that they're not going to be included in the renourishment, which can affect even their neighbors and whether or not they get sand, because we need on the order of 1,000-foot threshold of shoreline feet, because this, this dredge process is so, for lack of a better term, messy. We need big swaths of shoreline to do it. So if we don't have participation in certain areas, they simply won't get sand. And
So Chad, I know that the lot sizes vary, but what, in just general terms, how many contiguous properties would sort of have to be put together in order to place sand there?
on the order of about 1,000 shoreline feet.
1,000 shoreline feet. So what's the
What's that,
normal
like
width?
3 properties?
And on the properties, some properties are 300 feet wide, some properties are 75 to 100 feet wide.
So it's going to take a number of them. So if one in between, again, if there's 3 and somebody doesn't sign an easement, and there's 3 more and somebody doesn't sign, if those aren't 1,000, I mean, that whole area can't even be done. Is that
It's a possibility.
accurate? Or, I mean, that's a consideration, right?
And for the people that signed up and wanted the berm, and the people next to them that didn't, who's being reached out? Is everyone being reached out, or is it just being the people that didn't want the berm being reached out?
I don't understand the question.
Basically, the people that didn't want the berm, are you sending out letters? Is the town sending out letters to the people, just the people that didn't want the berms or haven't replied to the berms? Or are the letters being sent out to everyone across the board?
Everyone who I haven't received an easement from is getting, making every effort to get in touch with them to,
Yeah, letters, postcards.
Right, but what I'm thinking, Chad, is that neighbors might be a very, very strong entity as far as pushing people to say yes who said no.
Agreed.
So maybe if there's a way to let neighbors know, you know what, you are in danger of
Well, the
not,
neighbors are also, I see, let them know, even
Let
though
them know.
even though they
That was-
signed
even though they
the
signed,
that was my
they
point.
might not get it because their neighbor 2 houses away is saying no. Maybe we could invite them over for a margarita and talk to them.
Right, let's get to,
Yeah, let's get our neighbors.
Also,
Pull
we
out
need
the margarita
to,
maker.
also, if that's the case, also, they have the right to know that if their neighbors are not either
So-
responding or getting it, that they may not get it, even
So-
though they requested it.
maybe the
How do you
question,
let
maybe the
people know?
question is there a posting, Chad, of some type, a public posting
Yeah,
that
is there
says
something
what
we
the
can ask
progress
people to
is
look
on
at?
who's signed easements and who hasn't, or what the properties that have and haven't? Is there a public document or website that shows sort of the progress, who's in and who's not in?
Not,
Is that a consideration? I mean,
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I think that could be possibly, like you said,
I think
helpful.
neighbors are very, very, could be instrumental in this.
Well, but also it'd be just interesting to see because.
And like Jennifer said, they have a right to know. You think you're gonna get it, but you ain't gonna get it because your neighbor said no. What? I want that sand.
Mm-hmm.
Come on over, have
a
a
lot of
margarita.
sand. Yeah, it's a lot of sand. So,
So it's public information who has signed in for it, is that correct?
sure.
Oh, so maybe
is
that's,
that something that
that's
could
what we're
be
asking. How could he do it?
yeah.
published
Right.
and, a map and, with color coded?
I bel-
These are the areas that are
I did.
in. and-
Right, I had asked maybe 3 or 4 months ago during one of our meetings if there was a map of where the berms were going to be, who, signed up for it, because that is important. That is incredibly crucial for people, and that our community has a right to know where these berms are going to be placed, and
Well,
whether
the
your neighbors are
Renourishment at the berms are over.
renourishment. Sorry.
Well, again, the easement does cover, any sand project where we want to place sand. If we have a hurricane again in 2-3 years, again, that's why we get multiple years, onto the easement. So the berm and the renourishment, it's an easement to place sand. We don't really distinguish between projects. Of course, we'll talk to property owners about what's happening and what's going to happen and discuss any concerns they might have. But the berm and the renourishment are the same easement.
Mhm. Is there still, I'm guessing maybe it hasn't been, but again, maybe I'll just ask the question. So there's still a consideration to place sand on, state owned property that's seaward of the ECL line?
So that has been put forward to council, and they pushed that decision to the August meeting.
Okay, I know that was the green sheet was labeled that, but I didn't understand that they actually made a decision on that. So good, thanks for clarifying that. And so you guys understand that?
No, I don't, that's what I was gonna ask you. Where's,
So the environmental control line, right, it runs, not erosion control, erosion control line is basically the property line.
okay,
Seaward of that is the state owned, and landward is privately owned.
right? And how can you tell where that is?
It's platted,
1976.
Okay.
well, different times I think.
No, you're thinking of the triple seal,
Yeah.
1978 triple
It's
seal, it's a
78.
different line.
Right, it's a different line, but basically it varies up and down the island. For instance, down I think on the southern end there is an ECL, environmental control line.
Erosion control.
Erosion control line, erosion control line. But I guess the point is then that's state land that can be managed by the state and the town as they see fit. So, but that could be at the end of the, depending on where it sits, it could be in the middle of what you'd consider to be the whole beach, sand beach, in the center of it, or sometimes it could be the bottom third, or sometimes it can be a couple feet over maybe what today's, rack line sits.
So it isn't always bay side of the rack line, it might be Gulf side of the rack line? Is that possible?
No, always,
It
yeah.
meanders along the beach. Right now, it basically is an arbitrary line in the sand. However, that erosion control line is based on where the mean high water line was whenever it was surveyed, on the order of like 20, 30 years ago.
And typically, if you are renourished, it establishes that line because you're taking taxpayer money to place that, and you don't place that on private property unless you have an easement. Yeah. Yep. So it's it's a relatively important distinction.
Truly.
Just thought I'd bring up. Yeah. So, boy, that was a big update. Anything else, Chad? Okay. Excellent. So moving along here on our agenda, actually it'll be quite a short agenda, and the reason I say, well, let me just continue on here. So the beach, hurricane recovery beach accesses, that was on last month's agenda, and we decided to place it on this month's agenda to maybe give us all a little bit more time to research it. And I've done some work myself. I went and looked at all of our accesses, and they really vary. So the idea again is, do we have advice, or can we advise the council on what would be good ideas to follow in rebuilding the accesses? So we talked a little bit about the last meeting. Chad had brought up the idea that the berm itself, because right now the berm is obviously presents sort of obstruction.
Yeah, I'm
And
hearing
there's-
complaints about that.
When there's ADA issues as well.
Yeah, exactly, that's
So-
what I'm hearing.
So the idea was an idea was to actually, move the sand out of the berm to open a pathway between it. And there's some areas that don't have a berm, so maybe that wouldn't be as much of an issue, but ADA requires a 1 in 20. Now, I didn't go into all the ADA.
Well, if I understand correctly, every beach access has a berm.
Oh, that could be true there, or a berm will be placed.
Yeah.
Is that, can you comment on that,
Will
Chad?
be placed.
Right now, the sand hasn't been placed in front of, oh no, it has actually, now I think about it, but
Depends
all,
on where some accesses do, some accesses don't.
yeah, it's
So,
further north it seems that there's
Yeah, just
less.
to give you all an update, I did talk to the beach expert at FEMA, and poking holes in the berm is frowned upon
Right.
for obvious reasons.
That's
So
right, I have to report too, yeah.
We are going to be proposing to place sand in front of and behind the berm to make a gentler ramp rather than push the sand.
Perfect, because that's the recommendation of our coastal engineer, actually. Is that?
Sorry?
Yeah, I was saying that's the recommendation of our coastal engineer that, you know, Mike Hoff that's doing some of the work out there. Because the idea to actually poke a hole in the berm is self-defeating. It's a dike, isn't it?
Yeah.
It serves as a dike, and the minute you put a hole in it, it's just gonna scour like crazy. So I'm glad to hear that. So they're saying actually from the grade level, let's say the parking area, the beginning, what we call the beginning of it, you would put a 1 in 20 slope to as high up to the berm as you can. Is that about right? And then if it's below the berm, you'd probably remove, you know, even that out and then take a 1 to 20 down. Perfect, because I went and looked at all the accesses and it seems like in some areas that'll be easier than others, but it doesn't necessarily have to apply to every access. Is that also?
I'm not a lawyer to tell you whether or not ADA is required at a beach access.
Probably where there's parking, handicap parking.
Right, there's all those conditions, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so again, that's not, yeah, that's
What's the
discussion.
1 in 20? That's
Well,
the
it's about
grade,
the
1 foot and 20
Our
feet?
concern really is resiliency.
Every 20 feet you go across,
1
you're
foot?
going up 1 foot.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So it'll be a gradual slope.
it would be, let me see if I can even read my notes. I can't, and for some reason, I know I wrote it.
What?
Anyway, basically, it appears that, you know, from the access, it kind of goes down, almost like
Yeah,
a ditch.
it does.
I mean, it's just sort of cut out. And you can imagine that you're gonna have you know, you have to build that up to a certain spot, you know, and I don't know if there's issues with the width. I know that I think the ADA would have to have a minimum of 48, whatever the minimum width is. Is there, you know, in some areas it would look like it would be, you know, you'd roll down the side of it. So I'm sure those are issues, but I think from a resiliency standpoint, I mean, that's absolutely the way to go.
That
Why
makes
would you
sense.
poke a hole in the dike to, the water's just gonna gush through that when it
Sure.
runs up into the, up against the berm
Would
That's
that
a lot.
and
incline
scour
be-
like crazy.
Would that incline be matted, like we
Yes, ma'am.
did have? Okay.
We put a
Okay.
mats.
And it's up, and then it's over, and then it's down.
Yeah, so if this is the berm and this is the parking area.
Yeah.
Basically you would fill this area with sand in the access, and then you'd
Gotcha.
also then come down this way as well.
Gotcha.
So it's
Right.
just simply a 1 in 20 slope, yeah.
I actually have a question in regards to those mats. Before Ian, were they removed?
That's a good question.
I would need to ask Public Works about that.
Yeah, I didn't see any in the debris.
No, not at all.
And that's
I mean,
something,
they
some
would
of
have
those
probably
were
been
long.
sucked right out to the ocean.
Yeah, they're probably.
So-
Well, but I would think they would wrap because they're so long, like the ones on Flamingo. I mean, that's a long Moby mat.
If you don't see a building, you're probably not going to see a wrap of plastic. So if the building's gone, most likely the wraps are gone. But I would like to, ask Public Works that, you know, we are in hurricane season, that I just would like to know what efforts are taken environmentally in case we do have another hurricane to eliminate more debris in our Gulf and our bay. So I'd like to know if there's a list of things that we do if we have an intimate a hurricane coming, do we take our garbage cans off the island? Do we take the walkways, the mats off the island to also save money for the taxpayers if we can protect those things, but also environmentally to protect our waters. So I would like to know what preparation is.
Is that something we should go to Jason Freeman for that,
Yeah,
right?
you can
Yeah.
contact Jason for that.
Yeah, so maybe if you're agreeable, I can contact him and ask him if he'd like to attend a meeting
Yeah.
at some point and, you know, just inform everybody what the policies are for the town.
I would appreciate that.
You guys are amenable to that? All right.
So all of the beach accesses would need this additional sand and work then?
Well, it's interesting as you look at them, most of them, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but some of them are actually,
Some of them are,
Yeah, it seemed like
usable
it's
the way they
not
are.
gonna be as, yeah, it need as much sand as possible, you know, as others.
Okay.
And like I said, some of them, specifically more on the geographical north end of the island, don't have the berm, so it's just a straight walk out now, so they wouldn't require that.
People have told me that it's difficult for their dogs to access the beach in many places because it's too much for them to climb. So
It
we
is, I
need to
mean-
look into it.
Yeah, oh, for sure, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
There's some areas that actually have been sort of leveled
Yes.
down a little bit, I don't know.
Yeah.
Those are the ones in the buggies. People have to haul up over the buggy.
So otherwise, with that in mind, I mean, there's no discussion on how that would be
No, it seems like Chad's been thinking about it already.
vegetated. Yeah, I
He
mean,
knows what
so
to
is there
do.
any other design there, Chad, that, for accesses that you've taken into consideration since you've, you know, contributed the fact that we would be, you know, the recommendation is to add sand? Is there anything for, let's say vegetation? I mean, would you just normally just vegetate where you appropriately could? Like we have in the past, yeah, I mean, our access.
The idea is to try and get rid of these perpendicular dunes and try and do more frontal dunes.
Mhm.
Obviously, you wouldn't be able to vegetate where the mat's at.
Right, right, but maybe to solidify the sides, you know, in some cases where it seems like it's higher on both sides, to, I don't know, put sea graves or something there to stabilize the sand.
Yeah, I think grasses are preferred, but sure, I
Yeah.
understand the idea.
Yeah, just to stabilize it, so.
And then on the parking area, I know the Estero Island Garden Club came up with a suggestion that people sign up, whether it's organizations or churches or just communities, sign up to take over vegetation on the side street part or the parking area for beach access.
Actually had a conversation during our, the Keep Lee County Beautiful cleanup, kayak cleanup and walking cleanup. And she basically said that they are 100% in, that they will organize that. They love to do planting, and their volunteers would be more than able to get out, and she just needs direction from the town. Or
Yeah,
from
so if
us.
there was like a sign up of this is the beach access points and who would like to manage or help
Mhm.
support that?
Like on
Great,
the
why don't
highways,
That's
they
a-
have
that's
sections
a
of the
good-
highway
Why don't we
maintained
pick
by
one?
this group.
I mean, it's a good segue into the next agenda item,
Yeah,
vegetation on
Right.
town property. So if we're done with beach accesses?
no, I just want to ask Chad, if we were to pick one beach access now, which would be a good place to start, which could be our exemplary of look what we might do with cooperation,
Staff has already prioritized 5.
5, where is that, what street?
I can get you the list later.
I can look it up, thank you.
Actually, and then what about scours that are like adjacent to streets that are very deep and dangerous? Are those being, is the town dealing with that, or is there any plan to fill those scours in?
You would need to ask Public Works. It's more of a street thing right away. Depends on which street, who owns it.
Good.
Yeah, that sounds grand, I'd love to see that happen.
Anything else on beach access, sort of design, resiliency? No? Perfect. All right. We will check mark that and move on into vegetation, which, you know, we can discuss, but I think that the Estero Island Garden Club came to the town council meeting to basically step forward to say that they would be the organizing body of that versus, let's say,
I'm
we had
sorry.
discussed it.
I apologize to interrupt you. However, this gentleman came, and I do see his agenda, and he did come here.
During
and he
beach accesses.
he made a note on here, and I just caught that boat launch accesses. So
Perfect, yeah, sorry
if
about
I-
that. Yeah, that's my fault,
out
no
of
problem.
respect, I think we should.
Yeah, without
have a
question, I wrote it on my
conversation.
notes and not on my agenda, and I've been working on my agenda, so. So on that subject, Mr. Moyer, actually, and all those rest of the folks that might be watching, With regards to access to boat launches, actually Let's Go FMB, which is an organization that's sort of sprouted up to help the town with the rebuild, there's actually a subcommittee in that organization, in that group, that's actually looking specifically at that. To determine where we could possibly get some more boat launches and things like that on the island. Because you know, like you said, the end of Virginia is really one. There's been a few private ones here and there on side streets, and then there's the Johnson boat ramp, which is down on Lover's Key. But otherwise, there are no boat ramps on this island. You know, there's been a discussion a little bit that the county owns property that's down by Big Carlos Pass. There's a section, there's a strap number there that runs right next to the Estero Boulevard that the county owns. Just, I guess it's south of Estrelita Road and parallel to Estero Boulevard, if I'm correct, that runs down to the water. And that had come up, I think, during that meeting potentially, that is a potential site if the county would be, you know, okay with doing something like that.
Is that where the new bridge is being built?
It is, but the bridge is actually on the Gulf side,
The
where it's
Gulf
going to
side.
touch
And this
the
is
island,
on
and this is on the
the west.
east side of Estero. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
What about the boat launch at Chapel? That doesn't function anymore? There used to be, you could get your kayak down there. I think it was Chapel Street I went to with a kayak, but it's not functioning anymore?
I'm not sure.
You're talking behind the grocery store there was
Yeah.
the town hall.
Tops, yeah, behind Tops there was.
Right.
Fire
not-
department owns that property.
Yeah, but the launch is still there. I came in yesterday with my dinghy there.
Oh.
So it is a kayak launch. It's made to put a kayak in and step right into your kayak.
Right, yeah, I
And
used.
that's,
Is it still working then? Is it still functioning?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we still have a few out.
Yeah, yeah. So, as a group, like I said, they're working on, you know, I had to be redundant. So if Let's Go FMB is actually working on that,
Yeah,
we can just monitor what their input is, and if we have input, we could provide it.
right.
But as far as taking up as an agenda item, I don't,
Yeah, why duplicate it? There's
yeah.
lots to be done.
There's a lot to be done. Yeah, if we can avoid redundancy, I think that would be an excellent idea. So, but I think that you're with like-minded people on trying to. I mean, a boat launch would actually be fantastic for all those homeowners that have boats that are on trailers. Right now, like I said, they have to go down the Johnson boat ramp, but that can be a very, very, very busy place. As the rest of the public off island even are using that.
Right.
Do the hotel or do businesses that own property on the bay, do they rent out or do they offer services to the people in the mooring field?
No.
They don't?
Yeah, Pink Shell has a ramp.
But do they
I don't know.
offer it
No,
to the mooring field or, you know?
I think it's
No, I
just for
think
their
it's private.
clientele.
It's private, yeah. Okay, good. So, moving forward, vegetation on town properties. So as it started to say that the Estero Island Garden Club has approached town council with the sort of a joint venture, really, I guess, or including all those in town that are interested, but they would be willing to be the lead on vegetating the town properties and making recommendations. And I think they're an excellent choice to do that. And I think, Rose, you belong to that club, is that right? So, I mean, essentially we'll be represented there, the MERTF advisory board will be represented there, and maybe as members' reports in the future as things progress, you can let us know, give us an update if we don't hear it at a town council meeting.
Okay.
Sound
Yes.
good? I mean, the more communication about it, the better. I mean, that's
Right.
the point, is trying to communicate the
And I
issues.
was trying to decide if the town council actually approved that offer for them to participate, because they have a website set up where the public can contact a website and get information.
I don't
So,
understand what the town has on their website, you're saying?
No, the Estero Island Garden Club they have a website, but then they set up a link so that people could write in and ask for, someone to come out and review their property or to come and talk to them about
Okay.
vegetation suggestions. But I haven't heard that the town council actually approved that. you know, that, and I don't know.
Well,
if they
I mean,
need
to some degree, it's a private organization helping
Right.
private property owners, so I don't know
But
if
wouldn't
that's.
that be nice to have something on our own town website that people could see and go, oh, wow, I mean,
Yeah.
I
Right.
really need actual, I need help.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's most people I've seen.
Hi, I'm over here, I need some
yeah.
help.
My place is still a train wreck, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it would be great if the town put something up there, a link to the website with a description explaining
it is.
of what it is.
Yeah, well, that could be a recommendation that the garden club could make to Jenny Dexter.
Yeah.
So maybe we
And
Can I
can.
they
make a
should do it.
motion then?
Well, I think you as a member of the garden club could certainly pass that along. I don't know if we need a motion for
Yeah,
that, but it
just ask Garden Club to do it. Just,
Yeah.
then it's there.
doesn't have to be official, I don't
It's not
think.
from us. It's because Garden Club wants
To add
people,
something,
they want people to be able to contact them easily.
right?
Yeah,
And
Well,
this is
but
the
we
easiest way.
can't, but we can't direct town staff to do something. So
Right.
really what the town council can do is direct, so we should probably make a motion to advise town council to ask the town manager to direct his town staff.
Do you think
and
they
I
need to?
under-
I don't
I
think
don't
that's
think they
being
need to.
overly official. I
No?
mean, that's my
Yeah.
opinion, is
I
that
mean-
that's,
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't
I
think
think
there's
that
a
that's encouraging. I can't imagine anybody would be against that. They have the choice to accept their help or not accept their help.
Right.
And I think the town would, I don't think Jenny would have a problem with it. I mean, that's my opinion.
And if she does, then we'll
Oh.
go to council.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I didn't know if we could just ask.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be pushback. Well, I mean, the garden club would be the ones asking, would you,
Right.
here's a
Oh.
advisory, can you add this to an advisory?
That's
Or
all.
can you put a link on the website? I mean,
Okay.
they're always looking for content and ways to help the town residents, so that'd be, I mean, again, that's my opinion, I don't think there's any resistance
Yeah.
whatsoever for that.
Right. Oh,
I mean, what a great offer.
Sure.
Yes.
What an
Definitely.
absolutely phenomenal offer, yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
How large an organization is the Garden Club?
There were 62 members at last count,
62.
Wow.
and and some of us are no longer living on Fort Myers Beach, although we may have property here or not, but,
Right.
and you don't have to live on Fort Myers Beach to be a member.
Okay.
Would you like to join? No,
I would,
Yeah.
to be honest.
no, and it's, yeah. Enough said.
Are there a lot of men in the membership?
No,
No, okay, I'm just asking.
no, unfortunately not, there have not been,
The real men garden. There's
Oh, yeah.
a golden
I love gardening,
opportunity.
absolutely.
Some men that move
We
in
call
there.
it landscaping, you know.
Yes, right.
Horticulturist.
A little more macho, right? But,
yes, yes. And they
Right.
meet regularly, there's normally 2 meetings a month, and normally one of them's an educational meeting with guest speakers or presentations.
what time can you give, actually, here's a quick spot.
Well, normally it's been meeting at the Fort Myers Beach Library.
Okay.
So hopefully starting September, October, like right now,
Okay, so it hasn't resumed yet since the storm?
right now we're meeting for luncheons once a month.
Okay,
But
gotcha.
in terms of presentations, hopefully September, definitely October when the library opens back up.
Mhm.
I would also suggest the Mound House. I mean, this is a great
Well,
place
and yeah,
to possibly hold
Talk about
meetings, and I'm sure Jeff would be happy to host.
Could only ask, right?
Yep.
That's
only
right.
ask.
Can't be told no unless you ask, so. So again, I figured that would be a shorter item just because that had occurred from our last meeting till this meeting, so, so that's actually it for our agenda, as I can see.
well, then there's the timeline.
The written, we've got the timeline. Oh, actually, yeah, let's roll that into, well, see, there's
Oh, I don't know.
there were two sort of separate items. One was this initiative to vegetate the town
Right.
green space, but I think we can certainly add that since we have time, is to talk about the timeline that you sent us all, we received yesterday. Just about, and that's basically, well, maybe I can preface the whole thing is you're talking about the vegetation ordinance and the efforts, your timeline actually documented, and actually it went even before that. There was a woman on MERTF when I first joined named Shannon, what was Shannon?
Mates.
Mapes, yeah, and boy, she talked about against invasives. Holy cow, we'd sit down and we'd hear about, you know, Brazilian pepper and just, you know,
She knew the Latin names too. She was on
yeah. So she actually was, that was one of her pet projects, but anyway, and I think maybe that also helped lead into the you know, looking at the vegetation ordinance, I think specifically to try to just prevent all these invasives from being planted. So your timeline was basically from really
The inception.
the inception of us looking at the current ordinance on the books to modernize and specifically to address invasives, really, right?
Right.
And the timeline, we went through all those steps that you put in the timeline to the point where we had provided all our input to you know, to offer up a new ordinance or an amended ordinance to involve these, and I believe it was even presented to town council. And so the next step,
Right, the suggestions were.
right, the suggestions, right, what our advice to the town council to modernize the current vegetation ordinance to really include the FLECCP, FLCCEP, whatever the acronym is, but the class 1 invasives, so
Yes.
the nastier invasives. And so it's just a matter of the language being written and then presented to. I'm not sure, I haven't seen the agenda for the next month's meeting, so I don't know if it'll be added, but our staff liaison, Councilman.
The open space buffering and landscaping ordinance.
Right.
There's 2 separate vegetation ordinances.
Mhm.
And because it takes so long to get ordinances passed, I'm almost thinking that those still need to be worked on, but something kind of short and sweet could be that the town council.
We put through kind of a stopgap thing before.
Yes, because it takes,
Is this for single family?
for all.
Because right now, there's,
all-
that actually already
For all
applies.
rebuilds?
For all rebuilds. Yeah.
Okay, so this is,
Yeah, doesn't something already apply?
so there's multi-unit and commercial buildings right now that have what I would consider very tight vegetation ordinances, right? And I think
Those are
there's
bad.
also, already in there's a percentage requirement for native, as well as a lot of other ordinances. And I'm pretty much sure, besides cleaning up language and modernizing that just a little bit, we really didn't touch that much, our recommendations. It was more the single family, it was really more including single family into the vegetation ordinance, specifically to prevent planting of invasive, class 1 invasive species. I mean, you know, I'm generalizing this. So what you're suggesting today is that we make another proposal that there's a requirement for a minimum of 75% native plantings in single-family
And then that could
properties.
be something that would be passed in the next month or 2, and then go back to actually rewriting the ordinances, because that does take time.
Well, we've never seen a redlined vegetation ordinance. We do have one right now for the tree ordinance, because that was brought up by a past council person to sort of push that, you know, to move on that. And so that was done. I think that work's been done. Chad, is that correct on the tree ordinance? You've done all the language, it's just sitting in that form since Councilman Hassafras had sort of moved that along at that time. We sort of separated it out at the time because she was after that. And so that's what Chad sent us a couple of weeks, or whatever, a month ago, I think, was that particular tree ordinance that was actually, I mean, I'm calling it red line, but he had updated the
Right.
language, did the language for it.
So it's just about ready to go then?
To present, and I can't even remember,
We did present it once.
but it wasn't voted on, or? Because that would have to be actually a hearing. You know, that's an official, that would have to be you're amending the land development code, so you'd have to have,
Right, that's what it says. It said back on June of last year that, that it was up for the public hearing process. But I couldn't find the recording of that meeting. I mean, that's what it says in the meeting minutes from that meeting, but I could not find the video recording to see who said that, because it's, you know, it's under my report, but I didn't say that. But
Okay.
in June of last year, it did say that it was in the public hearing process.
Okay, so since this is,
And that was just the tree protection.
okay, so where do we go from here? I guess as the chair, I would say that potentially we table it so we can actually find out where, it actually didn't go through, so somewhere it didn't stop. Either it didn't happen, or somehow the storm, it went into September and everything changed. I don't know, unless you can comment on it, Chad, the tree ordinance?
So, I mean, again, you have what we worked on. I'm working with Sarah Probst, our planning manager, with that, but again, it's.
But I think Rose's question is that she remembers it as actually you going in front of the, during the amendment process and presenting it to council. Do you remember doing that? Or
So,
did we not quite get
again,
there?
That was
the
May
process would be for y'all to advise council, and then council can advise the town manager, and the town manager can direct staff,
Right,
along with everything else that we're doing to bring it in front of town council.
right. But I think maybe the question was whether we thought that was completed for the tree ordinance. And she's suggesting that it was, and that it
Yeah, it
came in
did.
front of council, but it stopped, and she can't find the recording. So it's basically, we're speculating, but I thought maybe, or we don't
Well, I'm
know.
using meeting minutes. I'm using recorded meeting minutes. I just couldn't find the video of who said it. But April 13th, he presented the draft to town council.
Yeah, do you remember? I guess that's what I'm asking then. Do you remember doing that? You don't?
It's been a while.
Okay, no, I mean, it's fair. That's absolutely fair.
So, yeah,
So we need to find out where it's at, I guess.
April to May.
But again, we went, we went in and already have advised, requested that the town add that back to the agenda. And that's effectively then asking them to direct the town manager to bring it back up on the agenda, and I suppose the mayor to bring it back up and add it as an agenda item to move it forward. So, and that's for the tree ordinance. Now, in the vegetation ordinance, we know for a fact that because we don't have copies of the language that that he usually works with the planning agents, our planning town planners. And again, Council Beach had asked that be added, but also then you're suggesting that we add to that. So if that's the case, then we should probably discuss her new additions. Since we were missing a couple members here, I would essentially table that part of it, since the vegetation ordinance hasn't been written.
Okay.
And it's still open for our contributions, that we can investigate anything else, that review it one more time to make whatever our final recommendations are for the vegetation ordinance, vote on those recommendations, and then move forward with that.
So we need to see a copy of that. And then
We would need to get the,
Definitely,
yeah, you just have to get the vegetation ordinance, which,
what I would encourage y'all to do is just keep a short and sweet bullet point list of what you're looking for. We want canopy trees in single family homes, we
Right.
want.
yeah, I mean, that exists already.
We want.
Yeah, I think we have that listed already with remember we went from, I think you even wrote it, we went from 20 items down to 13. I mean, that's very specific. So what I'm saying is that she wants to add, if there's 13 there, no 14, whatever the new recommendations are. So we would basically use that same document of the recommendation and just amend that. And then we could potentially present that to council as the the amended recommendations, and then go through the process of whether they will take it as a potential amended ordinance, and then write the language and go through the hearing process. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, I'm just thinking out loud, but so I'm trying to put some organization to it.
yeah.
So we're looking at another year, or
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot
Just
going on in the
depends
town
on-
now, and now all we can do as an advisory board is to bring it up. And I mean, we've spent a lot of time on it previously. It's been probably almost 2 years.
We're not talking about the tree ordinance.
No, the
We're talking about
vegetation and the tree ordinance.
Well, tree should, I mean, if it's already been,
Oh yeah, no,
take
I
it to
see. You're
town
talking about
council.
amendments. No,
Right.
the tree ordinance, I think we're okay with. I
Okay.
mean, obviously, we're okay with it because it's already been in a state of amending the current ordinance.
so essence, we just need to remind council that it was up for discussion? Or-
Right, which we've already done.
Okay.
Yeah, the chairs presented to them our motions here that came out of our meetings, and that one of them of the 4 last meeting, and that Dr. Fossen presented them, but he presented that we request that both the tree ordinance and the vegetation ordinance be added back to the agenda in order to allow us to present the work we've done for the last couple of years on both of those ordinances, and that's where it's at.
Did they discuss it?
No, I wasn't, I didn't, honestly, it was like a 6-hour meeting or 5.
No,
I missed the
think
last
they
couple
did.
hours.
They did not.
Yeah.
To my understanding, they did not.
Yeah,
I was there, I think, for most of the meeting, and it was not brought up. And I don't know whether it will be on the next agenda.
well, the town manager was there and the town council heard our request, so.
That's right.
Hopefully there's a response to it.
But there's a whole new team out there now.
Well, I think to be absolutely fair, that there's a new council there,
Yeah.
and there's only a few of them that actually, the previous council was in place when we were working on this, and we presented the changes, and so the new council has never seen even any of the changes or any of the recommendations. So that's a little bit of a hurdle that is
And they do have a lot on their plate, but I think it would behoove us to remind them of the importance of the vegetation.
Absolutely.
As
I was
people
wondering
are-
if that was something that is possible, that is it, not to be redundant or just keep, at it, but sometimes, maybe we do need to go back up in front of council and discuss the things that we're,
That's what we're here for, is to, advise the council, and I think that the 2 points that are probably the most important is that, from an invasive, as people build back, re-landscape, re-garden, that it would be very timely, because it's an excellent opportunity to avoid planting invasive species. So that's the first important aspect of it. And to Rose's newest recommendation, if there was a native requirement, which again, that's something I think that really needs to be discussed, the benefit to that is that they're more resilient for storms, they use less resources, they don't use pesticides, you don't have to use pesticides, you don't necessarily have to water. I mean, there's some as they establish, but they're much less impactful of our natural resources.
And more resilient, yes.
Yeah, there's those reasons we would present along with our recommendations, which we always do. So maybe they would consider that to be important enough to move forward with it. I mean, that's all we can really do is to request. I mean, we can't, that's about all we can do. And that's just me talking out
Right.
loud.
But what concerns me is that the council has so much on their mind, so many important things. We don't want this to be forgotten because there's no immediacy,
No, the important.
it's important.
I think the important thing is the work has been done. It's been there for 2 years, so all it would really be is a refresher of why we're doing it, what we're recommending, and then they can simply, move it forward or not move it forward. I mean, that's all
Right.
we can do.
So, once this ordinance, or if the council pushes this ordinance through, is it something where when someone is rebuilding back that they have to submit plans, vegetation plans or tree plans or what they're planting, and then if someone is gonna come and make sure that that they didn't plant invasive, I mean, what is the
So we will actually
process of
see,
this?
as part of the process, we see the red line, the old ordinance, which is updated, the red line, this is removed, this is what's added. We will see that. So if there's a question at that time, I think would be the appropriate time to bring that up. To say, is there permitting? I mean, again, that's sort of above our pay grade here. That would be Sarah Probst and Jason Green and the planning group to give input to Chad as to
Well, I guess
how
what I'm
to
asking
make this
if
a
there's
proper
if
ordinance.
there's an ordinance and people would have to submit plans of their vegetation.
Yeah, right now, let's say for
Or do they already have to do
multi-unit buildings and commercial buildings, that is already a requirement. I believe that there's a vegetation permit that's or requirements that, well, you have to have a land development order in order to do the work.
Yeah.
So, and Chad, as you're listening, correct me if I'm misrepresenting sort of what I understand the process to be. And so,
And you have to identify the trees. You can't just say we're putting a tree here or here.
I think though that's, and yeah, you can check out the tree ordinance.
Right,
That's,
that'll be up to the town to decide how they enforce it in building.
right, but that's
Just-
probably in the ordinance itself.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
so
what it is.
I would recommend that you look at that, take a look at what was Chad had shared with us again, which
Okay.
is, you know, we had earlier, which was the completed red line. This is what we're presenting. So, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And the other vegetation, our one suggestion specifically talked about native vegetation, about people should not be planting. That's the open space buffering and landscaping one. Our suggestion was specifically that you should try to use native landscape species, remove invasive exotic, and da-da-da-da-da. So it's actually pretty clear about why.
Right, but is it more, oh, why?
It doesn't specify a percentage though, but
Right.
it's in there.
Maybe that's something that, you know, these are modified based on the discussions at town council, and that's potentially, again, if we agree that there is a percentage we would want to apply, then that they would, you know, that's up to
It would
them.
make it easier.
Well,
think,
right, I
you
mean,
know, like, you did, you didn't, no, 75%, the specific number.
mhm.
Yeah, it's easy to calculate, you know, 3/4 of it, okay, you can put whatever you want in a quarter of this plot.
Right,
Most of it has to be
As long
what's
as it's-
recommended.
okay, so, what I mean, so again, what I offered was that we, or I recommended is that then we table that exact discussion for a new meeting that we'll, you know, discuss when we put together the set agenda for the next meeting. And we can discuss it at that time, whether that's, you know, how we'll manage it is to bring it back up and
Right.
just hammer it out, the final, so there's no more. And it'll actually force everybody to review what we have too.
Right.
I mean, because, you know, sometimes reading
Can we
those
can
ordinances
we
is like
resend-
watching paint dry, huh?
Let's resend everybody all of that to make sure everybody has a copy of it so they can.
Okay, yeah, I know Chad had
Yes,
sent it to us maybe last
I
month.
think you did, but I
so-
don't know whether I have it or not,
Okay,
to be
well, we
honest
can
with you.
request, Chad's here, would you be kind enough, Chad, to send to the MERTF board the tree ordinance? Once again, I know you sent it, that is marked up. And then I think vegetation has never reached that, so we would just take
The original.
our original and our notes, and specifically the documented recommendations that I think you recorded, the suggestions, and you either can provide those to Chad to forward to us, or you can.
Right, and we'll make sure.
I
we're all
know,
looking-
I know I have them, yeah, so I would,
But we'll make sure even those who aren't here now, all get an opportunity.
yeah, we need to, I think it, for us, again, because we have also other agenda items that we all agreed upon, and, you know,
Yeah.
after the storm, is to come prepared and see if we can hammer it out as part of, and, you know, an agenda item. Because we've done, like I said, you know,
Yeah,
98% of the work. These are just, that work was all done before the storm, and obviously people have different considerations and thoughts since the storm. And we have a
Right.
better idea of what storm resiliency really means.
And the need.
Yeah, so does that sound like a plan,
Yes.
Yep, great.
Dan? Okay. Excellent. So, we will bring that up again later at the setting the agenda for the next meeting or future meetings. And so the next item on the agenda is the Shoreline Spotlight article, which, Wendy, we did receive yours, and that, so on the sand dollars, thank you, that should be published any minute here, it's submitted, and they, you know, publish when it occurs. And so that was for July,
July.
correct? So for August, Mary Rose?
That's me. And
You're
I
on?
have such a good idea. But
Right.
I'm not sharing it because it's so good. Eye-catching.
Oh, behave, behave. So Mary Rose is up, I'm on deck, and Doc Fossum's in the hole for October. All right? And anybody else here isn't on for isn't on for quite some time, December, I think, Jen, for you, so you've got plenty of time. All right, we good there? Any questions, any concerns?
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
a bummer because I actually have a really good idea too, and I'm worried one of you are gonna steal it.
Oh, I hope so.
All right.
Or think of it first before I can get it out.
Yeah. Shoreline Spotlight article, we discussed that. So next item here is council report update. I remember adding that, but that's probably, we did have a council report, so maybe we'll make a note every time the advisory board makes motions to advise the council, and we'll include this. So, so yeah, all four of our motions were presented by Dr. Fossum, in my absence. And maybe this is a good time. You all have the public record of that meeting. So there were some inaccuracies that were brought up at the meeting. And so the question is
Well, I think, to be honest with you, more than there being inaccuracies, after Dr. Fossum made the MERTF presentation, he was actually attacked. And during that time, there were many false accusations made, and there were untrue things said about us MERTF members. So I'm sorry to interrupt,
no,
Mr. Chairman, but I was present at that meeting. I sat through it, and it was difficult not to stand up and respond to the man. So I hope that we can talk about this now and come up with some way to prevent this from ever reoccurring.
Mm-hmm. So actually the chair, and you have a copy of it, was actually responded to that. So essentially it was a discrete, basically a confidential and discrete communication response to what was read there. Actually was the email that was sent to the chair, and that was actually read the night before it was read at the meeting. And so I responded to it privately. And so the question is, though, is the record hasn't been corrected. So.
And I think it should be. I think there were certain statements. So I would move that we make some recommendations as far as correcting the record that was presented at that meeting, and requesting that there be something done so that a reoccurrence of the attack that occurred at that meeting is not seen again. It was totally out of line, and it's the type of thing that might set a precedent so that advisory committees would be reluctant, to be honest. And I have a quote here from Thomas Paine, and it says, "He who does not offend cannot be honest." And if we are an advisory committee and we purport to be honest, we have to be allowed to be offensive to people at times. And if we tell people that they are doing the wrong thing, such as raking the beach,
Well, to set the record straight, we didn't actually say
and that's just it.
anybody specifically was, so that isn't in essence sort of the falsehood. So
we have a couple of things to talk about here, but
So
I would
I'll-
like to move that we do something.
Yeah, I'll second the motion for
That we
discussion.
prepare-
For discussion, yeah,
Okay, good. That we at least discuss it.
yeah.
And then decide if we want to follow through and bring a statement to council or however
Potentially
we
just the
decide to do
response.
this.
Just make, I think the chair's response by private communication potentially would be, which I believe set the record straight.
But there were a couple of things. First of all, we never mentioned anyone's names.
All right, I think that's in the response
Right.
that I'm suggesting could be potentially what would correct the record.
And
Just simply
unless,
reading the response.
good idea. Would you do that?
I would be happy to, yeah. I wrote it, yeah. Does that sound
I think it
agreeable?
might be a good idea. I don't know if anyone else agrees with me or they feel it.
Yeah,
Well,
I know you haven't seen it, that's why you have
I'll
copies.
speak.
Okay.
I watched the meeting, and I'm not afraid to be honest. That's one of the things that I'm proud of myself, is I'm just gonna say it, not to, you know, of course I don't want to offend anyone or hurt anyone's feelings, but, and they're my own personal feelings, but it was embarrassing. It was awkward to watch, and it hurt my feelings, to be honest.
So I think.
I actually, I'm not finished with my comment.
Okay.
I'm extremely offended. I've been volunteering for MERTF for years now, and I've worked really hard to be a good community member. And so I was extremely offended and hurt by those comments. And I actually am requesting on record, I and MERTF, the committee, deserves an apology from town council. That's it. That's all I have to say about it.
Well, I'd like to say, I don't care
Well, there's
about, I don't care about apologies, but I'm a volunteer. I receive no personal benefit from this. I do not sell yellow shirts. I do not advertise on any medium. I will not receive more from a rental property if a boardwalk goes through. I believe it is bad policy to attack any advisory committee, regardless of what statements they make, and to do so in public makes it even worse.
Oh, no.
To put me in the same category as people who show their care for the beach by just using it as a moneymaker is absolutely wrong.
It was also
So,
very
I mean,
dismissive too. It dismisses us, and as an advisory board to the town council, it diminishes any advice or anything that comes out of these.
But I
So
see
if I-
this as an attempt to separate us
If
into
I can make,
groups.
if I can make a recommendation, I think
Please.
this obviously was stirred up. The
Yeah.
entire thing was stirred up, and I think that it's divisive for our community and it's harmful for our
Right.
community.
Mm-hmm.
So,
We're not two groups.
so for us to continue, to really just to continue to talk about it is just continuing and
You're
taking.
giving it more of,
Taking,
Right.
yes.
But I
yes,
would like to say we are
yes.
not two groups on this island. We are not a north and a south end. We have not been in all the years I have been here. We have a commercial area, we have a quiet area. We have always been symbiotic. I definitely patronize those establishments up on the north end. And all of those people come to the south end, love the south end. We are not two groups, and we will not be split because we know we are working through this terrible
Well,
situation
you live on the
together.
south end, correct?
I live on the south
And
end.
I live on the north end, and I have friends on the south end
Right.
too.
So to say that we are,
This is, again, this is, I think, given
so
the
let's
whole
put this,
issue
To
publicly
rest.
to be
Really
credence,
more.
right?
Let's.
Yeah, I'd say that as we discussed, we'll set the, you know, you made a motion to set the
record straight.
public record straight.
Okay.
So
what are the
we
points
have a
that we
second,
need to make?
right? And
Yeah, Jennifer
and
seconded.
so the chair will.
I didn't
The chair
second it,
will do
but
that.
I will second.
Okay.
Yeah.
What points do we need to make?
Professionalism.
I just simply think that I would present maybe the response from the chair to the, you know, these egregious
And that's what you handed us.
accusations. Yes, that you haven't had the benefit to see because again, it was a private document. Granted, it's a public, sent to a public official, but again, unless
So
unless anybody knows it exists, it's discreet.
this from the council member is
That,
what was read, what he stated at the meeting. I was present for that.
yeah, that
And
was,
then you were not there, Mr. Johnson, so you responded
Right.
in,
right. I
in
respect,
writing to
I have, you know, respect to respond to.
Maybe
to
we
his
should read
request.
your response.
Well, my suggestion is that we would simply read that at the town council meeting to set the record straight, and again, to prevent further inflammation of this sort of
Yeah.
situation.
Would you
That
do
would
that?
be,
Would you go to a council meeting and read this letter?
I'd be happy to do it. yeah.
Because I think we must. I mean, this was done at a council meeting that was
I mean, everything we do is a public record. The meeting is public. Our June meeting was public, so anybody can see exact
what the verbiage
dialogue.
was.
No, the
Right.
dialogue of the meeting.
I have to
That's
watch it.
That's a public record, and so was not a public record is
Is yours
it's basically the response.
clearing on the record? So
Yeah.
that would be my motion then, that I move that Steve read his response at the first opportunity at a council meeting. But I guess
What are we hoping for?
we are
Just to set the record straight,
just that it
and
will
to hopefully end this
An official response.
this stirred up mess that is unintentional and is very harmful to our community.
I would suggest that these people attend a pop-up so that they can get some real information about what's going on with MERTF. They obviously
Thank you.
don't understand what's going on here, what our mission is.
Well, apparently you have to be careful when you say those people.
Right, we
so,
can't-
because that's the whole point of
That's
this. Is
the
the
point.
entire thing is.
Yeah,
The
is-
finger pointers.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
that can be we.
it's silly to. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
And we've not done that. I
So,
don't know
It's
that.
probably, again, in order to prevent inflaming it, I would suggest that there's a motion on the floor that's
That
looking
we-
for a second. Yeah.
Yeah, that we read, that Steve read his response, and that we make that our response.
and I apologize for getting emotional, but it was really, it hurt my feelings. I've been, along with all the members, and I'm sure someone that probably knows how MERTF started from the very beginning, but if someone has got that information or knows how MERTF developed, I think that's an important thing
MERTF?
to maybe discuss with town council, why it is that we are a committee and what it is we do, just like what you were saying, and the things that, the hard work we put into it. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
how was MERTF?
MERTF actually
Started.
was started by John Mulholland, who was a past mayor. His widow lives next door to us, or did prior to her passing. And he started MERTF in order to protect the marine resources and to conserve the Back Bay. Was very specific in his mind, but the entire island. So it's sort of funny that I ended up serving from her. She had passed prior to, I think, to my serving, but it was I had learned all about it actually through her. So, and I thought it was a worthwhile advisory board. So that's that would be the update. The 4 motions were provided. So on the motion, was there a second?
I second it.
Okay, and we've discussed it as we always do before we second it. Is there any objection? So the motion carries unanimously. So let's jump into members' items and reports. Mayor Rose, can you give us any updates?
Turtles are hatching. Yay. We don't know, we haven't had a hatch in the new berm yet, so we don't know how well that's going to go, but we're really optimistic. The hatches so far have been in an area where there is no berm, and new nests are coming in almost daily.
Awesome.
That's all I have to say.
That's great news. Mayor Rose? I'm sorry, Rose?
I know, it's tough.
Rose,
We should sit next to each other.
especially when you sit next to each other, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, apparently you don't normally because.
And I never got to show you guys this. This whole vegetation project that we did with the Master Gardener
Mhm.
volunteers, they had a state conference last October, several weeks after the hurricane. And so actually, Lee County was recognized for our project here on Fort Myers Beach in identifying invasive plants and trying
Awesome.
to rewrite the town's ordinances on vegetation.
Oh, that should go to council.
Yes,
So,
Definitely.
for sure.
so they've had this downtown and I went and picked it up. Because it was like, show and tell's always good.
Congratulations
That's
to us.
awesome.
Yeah, I'd make a motion that during also the next council meeting, that we actually,
Yeah, you should move that.
Oh, yeah.
just to let them,
This be presented.
How else
that
are they gonna
that the
know?
town's actions are recognized
Yeah.
by Lee County
Okay,
for their proactive,
that sounds like the motion. So I would second that.
okay.
And I think that
Any
you should
objection?
show this when you go to
Yeah,
a
any
meeting.
objection to the
Wait,
motion to
Ma-
present it?
Maybe that should go up in the new town hall one
Well,
day.
it's
Yeah,
actually not,
well, it's
it's
still
not the town, it's Lee County.
It's to Lee County, sorry, it has to go back.
Oh, it
to
has
Lee
to go
County.
back to Lee.
Yeah, there's not, I can assure you there'll never be an award, there's gonna be an award case with for awards in it, okay?
Take a picture.
Yeah, that's right, we'll
That is very
we'll make a
impressive.
poster.
Okay.
Very impressive.
Right, so,
Yeah, it is.
thank you for sharing
Thanks for
that, Rose.
bringing
Rose, yeah. So I'll have to talk to you about getting that before the next council meeting. Ms. DiCatano, any
I don't have a
members'
report.
reports?
Two things. One is, I just wanted to elaborate on a comment that I had made in the last meeting, and, well, I'll just say, that my comment from the last meeting, I had said many people buy here for bars and the beach to make money, and not understanding the environment in its entirety. And I stand by those comments. It is a fact that people do buy here for none other than monetary reasons. They come here from other parts of the world, and understanding the delicate environment of Florida's barrier islands and our unique species that we have here, like the sea turtles, is important. And I know this for a fact because I was actually one of those people that probably broke some laws when I first visited and moved here. I remember I took my two dogs that were very young at the time and loved to run on Flamingo Beach. Flamingo, the beach that's off of Flamingo. And I had so many people yell at me, and they were digging in the sand dunes and they were just free, and I thought,
I'm assuming they were off leash.
They were off leash, yes, I'm sorry. I just let them go.
correct the
and
record.
not, they're the happiest dogs on this planet right now. And they were chasing birds, and I'm embarrassed, but when I came here, I didn't really understand all the environmental. I've learned, and I've listened to other community members that have been on this island for much longer than me, and I've listened, in regards to planting, and in regards to letting dogs off the leash, and what my actions do to affect the environment, and not that I was doing it, or not that anyone does it out of being malicious. It's just when you know better, you do better for the environment. And again, we have a unique environment. So many people that come here from other parts. So when I say people buy properties not understanding, they come here for either, they fall in love with it, whether it's their family and they move here, or they buy property to make money off of rentals, or they buy a business, or they build a big, huge condominium or hotel. It's really all of our responsibility to let people know kindly about our unique environmental, issues, or to, guide them, because that's what people did for me. And so that's why I decided to do the pop-up. So again, it's just, I wanted to kind of elaborate on that comment. And that's all I have to say about that. The second thing is we were just given another I have to get the amount for the activity book. Oh, and we had the pop-up here with the kids camp. We walked down to the beach. We had a scavenger hunt. It was so much fun. The kids, I mean, they had us all over the place. They learned so much about the beach and the rack line, and we had a blast. And we were now, let's see, we will be, there's a check for $4,700 to go specifically to the kids' activity, the beach kids' activity back
Who?
then.
Awesome.
Who?
Wonderful.
Sorry.
So this money was from a GoFundMe, Fort Myers Beach, a GoFundMe, but this money, the check will be is given to us by a Patty Smith. And that was a GoFundMe.
What group is it? Is it a
It's not a group, it's just
It's
people from
she.
all over the country and the world that gave money.
So
Does
this.
she live on the beach? Do we
Yes,
know
she has
her?
property, yes.
Wow.
And so she was able to basically make a decision where she wanted this money to go, whether it was, you know, to her property or any organization. But she saw this kids activity book as something that would benefit the beach
So many.
kids and and visitors and so many others.
Yeah,
So
so
I'm
that's
super
amazing.
excited, and I can't believe that we're going to be doing that. So
Wow.
I'm super excited about it. So.
I can tell.
Hats off to you.
You were your heart.
Yay!
And hats off to Patty Smith. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. That's actually great news.
Yeah.
And those are the things you need to focus on.
Right.
Yes.
I focus on those things.
Right. Perfect.
Instead of what people
So-
want to
Yes,
say
you
about
focus
us.
on
Because
those
we are a great committee and we do get a lot done. And we, you know, I wish more people, you know, I wish that, I shouldn't say more people, but I wish the town council would, besides our own liaison, I wish town council would come to our meetings and have more discussions. I wish more people would come to our meetings and have more discussion, because we do represent the town, and I'm proud of it. And I'm proud of everything we've done and all the hard work we've done in it. So,
Very good. Thank you, Jennifer. The chair has no items reports this month. Public comment. We do have still a member of the public here.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson.
Yeah, would you like to? Yep.
I want to start with apologizing to Board Member Rusker. I'm not sure I understood your question that you asked me last there about the other marinas and their facilities and what they allow.
Excuse me for the interruption. Leon Moyer for the record. Yep.
Thank you. Were you asking that they had bought boat launch facilities, or were you just asking about general?
whether, I'm not sure if I can respond to public,
The chair will allow it.
okay.
You had asked me a question before.
Yes,
Yeah, I
so
mean,
chair
that's-
allows me to answer your question. Typically, we don't respond to
Have
public
a dialogue,
comments.
but we're
Dialogue.
delighted to have you.
Yeah, we're very
So
excited.
go ahead, if you could.
I was just curious if other businesses offer, you know, whether it's bathrooms or water facilities, if you can pay a monthly fee to dock and use showers or facility. I was just curious.
Of course, they have facilities for big boats like yachts and large motorboats, but most of us who are living on a boat out here, there are quite a few, want to come to shore with a dinghy or rowboat. And that they do not really have facilities for. It takes a floating dock usually, and there's spaces for more expensive yachts. And therefore you don't get to use their facilities, such as restrooms, Wi-Fi, or showers. And also the town has an issue here because they took away Mantanza's control of the mooring field, and they were going to build showers and all those things, and they never have. So Mantanza still has a shower place off of Crescent Avenue. They're separate from the motels. That would be available. And I think my personal opinion might be that the town would be better off giving the mooring field back to Mantanza's again, but they kept, I think, close to 50% of the profits. So that was part of an issue there too, plus the control issue. So to answer your question, we really have no place to go to do laundry, showers, Wi-Fi, to leave our dinghies during the daytime, our bicycles at night, something like that, you know.
Have you gone to an Anchorage meeting? Have you had discussions with the Anchorage meeting?
Years ago, I did, and they're aware of this.
Are they meeting?
I don't know, I was about to ask whether they've resumed. Not all advisory boards have.
Resumed since after Ian.
I don't know if they are because there's really no Anchorage things to discuss too much. Austin Gilchrist is the town harbor master, and I'm in touch with him.
Good.
But
Well, it sounds like you have the right ear.
Yeah, is a town working on with the new facility that they're going to be building? Is there something? Are they just? It's a new town council. I don't even think the new town council has really discussed much about the mooring field that I've heard. Maybe I'm incorrect, but
I'm not keeping up with what town council has been doing. I've been up in Sarasota during the hurricane, so I don't know what they're planning on building there, where they used to have that little fountain between Nervous Nellie's and the condos there. Wahoo Willie's is there.
Bayside Park.
Bayside Park. That was going to be their location, but I'm not sure if that ever got approved. There's money for it. There probably isn't any financing for it.
There was I think there was a agreement with Snug Harbor to use their docking facility as a more of a public, but that was prior to the storm, and I don't know where anything's at, but I would recommend that you do, when the Anchorage Advisory Committee resumes meetings, that's their charter, is exactly what you're talking about, so. But thank you for making us aware of it.
In regards to Bayside Park, I had a question about Bayside Park. At the last council meeting, I believe Bill Veach had brought up to town council or to town manager, to someone in regards to maybe making some suggestions on certain things with Bayside Park, for like the
For the rebuild,
the turf grass.
there were
replacing
3 items.
turf grass, the uplighting, and I believe
coconut
the
palms.
Trees, the palms.
coconut palms.
So I mean, publicly available information. The mayor commented on it, that basically that based on the FEMA rules, everything has to go back exactly. However, there's a caveat. He mentioned that, well, it's possible maybe the artificial turf doesn't go back, but the regular turf. So I'm not sure why one can be altered and not the other, but I don't know.
So that is my question: is I'm having a
But
hard time.
he also said specifically that then for FEMA purposes, but then afterwards, things obviously can be considered again. So,
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's fair.
That was my question. It was, I had FEMA at my house the other day, and I asked him, well, do I have to replace exactly every single thing in my house from the same company, from the same, and he said, no, it's just, so that is where I was confused when it was said that everything was gotta be exactly the same, because what if, for example, the lighting company, the uplighting company's no longer in business, and
I'm not sure is that specific. You have to deal with the same companies, I think. And again, it's probably a different group that deals with public community parks versus residential homes, maybe.
And I was hoping that if they put in palms, it wouldn't have to be coconut palms, it just could be cabbage palms.
Again, I don't know the specificity of exactly what that is. Jason Freeman is probably the person that's the lead point on that project. So maybe as a resident, if you're interested, you can ask him specifically for it or research it. But I think,
so is that basically out of the MRFs?
well, we made our recommendations, so that's all we
That's
can
all
do
we
is
can do.
advise the council on what we feel is important for residents or for our scope of responsibility. And
Has any of the plans come forward to you, Chad?
No, ma'am.
Will they?
we said last time, we thought if it's for a rebuild, typically a land development order should be part of the process. So
So it will go,
I'm making an assumption. That's
There's
all.
some news blurb today that it will
If
be
there's any,
open by Labor.
if anybody's
It'll be
doing,
open by Labor Day.
if anybody's doing anything, there needs to be, I would think, a land development order to build or construct anything. You know, based on something that size certainly also, so I don't know. Or maybe there's something that says if there's previously passed, land development order.
I guess
I don't know, but that's
I'm
not.
really confused. So if the town is doing some construction, does the town have to go through the same permitting?
Yes,
So
they
it was
do.
permitted a while ago, right?
Well, was it? I don't know.
There was a land development order that was approved.
For the original.
For the original, correct. That was decimated, so there's a new project to replace it. So that's all I can say, I think.
We don't.
Well,
I don't know what the.
That's interesting because a lot of people are saying, well, I had a fence, it was exactly the same, why can't I just build it back without actually having to put in permits? If it's the same exact fence, same place, why do I have to get a permit for something that was already pre-permitted? Wouldn't that
It's a good
say
analogy,
the
yeah.
same for the town? If it was wiped away, shouldn't,
I don't think anybody's saying that that's not the process, I think. So he just said it hasn't reached him.
Right,
And so,
Here's Bayside Park open by Labor Day, so that's only a month away. Right? July, August, September.
I can't really comment on that,
Yep.
yeah, what the
Things are
process is,
moving along.
but I think it's a fair question.
and then I have one more question, are those cookies for us?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, we got, public comment got way hijacked. I apologize. I have one more comment if I may.
Fortunately, I mean, well,
It's regarding your minutes. Page 4 of the June minutes say the topic will be added to the next agenda. And that topic was Rebecca Schneider's request that MERTF engage in education and advocacy due to unreasonable resistance from the community concerning turtle nesting sites. That was not added to your agenda, was it?
well, it's also not, I mean,
And it says it was going to be added to the
on
agenda.
page 4, well, we haven't, so I'd be happy to address that, Mr. Moyer.
And that's why you need to get your minutes out early so you can make sure your agenda has these things
Oh, we have
on.
it.
Well,
No, we didn't approve
first
these
of all,
minutes.
that's incorrect because there was no discussion whatsoever of turtle nesting sites. So I'm not sure who did the minutes, but that's,
Okay.
And we haven't approved the minutes.
right, well, they haven't been approved either, yeah, so.
Who's talking about birds?
But to that point, I was going to mention that, Mr. Moyer, during the setting the agenda for the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's fine. When we get to that point. So the MRF award, so we'll close public comment. MRF award, how are we
We have
standing
one in the
there?
bank.
We have a couple in the bank,
Okay.
unless there's anything new that I can, I'm always looking for deposits into this. So does anybody have any new MRFs recommendations, or shall we look at the previous ones that have been recommended?
I think I owe you one from last month, and I can't remember who we decided.
You do,
on.
it was the,
vet. Oh, the vet.
no, no, Keep
No,
Lee
that's
County
the vet.
Beautiful, you
Oh,
submitted
well,
that.
No, that was from. the
It's published.
previous month.
It's
Yeah, that's already published from
Oh.
last month. We voted on one.
Well,
I haven't looked at the minutes.
you're right,
I haven't
so
seen the minutes,
they were offset because we started after we resumed with the MRF without an article, and then we got the article, and then, so anyway, so the next MRF, I
Has
should say
anybody
MRF
looked at the
award,
minutes to see?
I'm
is the
looking.
Community Foundation was one.
Yes, that was not the one.
Also, the
that was-
veterinarian that was helping euthanize animals.
It was Island
And
Paradise.
the third was Paradise,
Oh, it was
Island Paradise Tours.
Who
There's
helped
3 of
out
them.
with Keep Lee County Beautiful, yeah, so they were the ones that we all voted on, okay. So
Yeah,
we
and
just
so
need
we
to-
voted on June for the Keep Lee County Beautiful.
And July says the.
We have a new one, there's 3 that we will, somebody can make a motion to make for the MRF award, and then we'll vote on it.
What's the 3? I just
The
see-
3 are, the way I have my notes, are Community Foundation,
Mhm.
which, that was for,
Raising money, donating money.
was that for the,
For raising.
oh, right, for that was for the
Well, not just that, but also
$5,000.
helping the community in large, you know.
Right,
around house.
but that, I think that was specifically for that contribution, that then was gonna be used in partially for the kids' book. There's also the veterinarian, and the third that wasn't chosen was Island Paradise Tours.
So, but we voted on Island Paradise last month.
We voted on just Keep Be
No, we
Beautiful.
didn't. No, that was
previously.
previous month.
This last month we
So
voted
the
on.
one,
This
the one
last
that
one
was
was-
published was for a previous.
Right.
So these are my notes.
Yes, but we voted last month that it would be Island Paradise.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I
That was-
have, in my notes, I have Keep Lee County Beautiful was last month.
Okay, so I
All
owe
right.
you that.
June was
So we have two
Turbos.
in the
So
bank.
wait a minute, I submitted.
Yes, but that was for the first month that we got together. That was,
No,
That was in
that
the
This
was,
is for May,
or,
that was
May,
at our June meeting. We chose them, correct?
June we chose Paradise.
June 14th, 2023, as I go through my notes here,
that's because that's when they were,
under Murphy, I have 4 people, but maybe I should refer to the minutes.
Well, I have my written notes, and I have Keep Lee County Beautiful, and I've written in parentheses last month. And then the Island Paradise Tour Boat won.
Nominated Community Foundation.
I guess the thing is, did we turn in, did we submit
Second nomination
picture
for
and
Island
article?
Paradise Tours.
For Island Paradise.
Yeah.
I don't think we have.
So the Murph
We voted.
is confused, is what,
okay, Murph voted for Island Paradise last month.
Community Foundation event went to
Well, and you know, in the newspaper, we're kind of off. It
Okay.
used to be that we had Murph Award and the Spotlight
So-
article,
so-
the same issue, but we don't always do that.
So the issue is that we're literally a month in arrears.
Correct.
So we were voting on something that was for the month previous. So let's just correct our schedule if we can. So we're gonna vote on the August or the July? The July, actually it says June I have on here.
I think you messed up.
No, I actually wrote June, so maybe that's why. And then I have 1, 2, 3 in Piety Start. Okay, so
This
that's
is
it.
July.
Okay,
July Island Paradise, and then the
Is
two that are
July.
in the bank are the veterinarian and CF, FMBCF, Community Foundation. So those are the two that are in the bank.
okay.
And then if anyone else would like to, has a contribution or has a Murphy idea, they can speak up or forever hold their peace.
Okay. So July is Island Paradise Tours, again, and rightfully so, for their contributions to the Keep Lee County Beautiful event. And so it's in the bank is Community Foundation and their very generous donation, as well as the vet. So opposed to making motions for each of them, we'll simply bring it to a vote. We've got 5 people. So, all in favor of the Community Foundation? Is that, or would you like to make a motion to discuss it?
Does either of them,
Oh, should I?
does the month matter, like,
So that's what's screwing this entire thing up is the month, I think. So, what I know is that we've named already Island Paradise Tours for whatever, the next one, whenever it is, when Jennifer gets it. I'll actually
the-
suggest that we,
do we need another one? We don't
Sort
need
of.
another one, do we?
Well, we do, because
We
we're
do?
doing.
well, is it for August?
August. So we're basically.
Well, wait a minute, you're writing, your article was the July spot.
Okay, but we don't
So yours is
have,
August, so
Right.
what we will,
so we have,
so, we can either make Island Paradise Tours for August and put those back into sync, if we can.
instead
The
of,
article
yeah,
and the Murphy, and not work one in advance and one in, I mean, it's
Does that
crazy
mean
we're
the
talking about this, but let's try to straighten it out.
are we losing a Murphy winner then?
Yes, we are.
Well, we
We're
lost-
losing a month.
Well, we lost,
month.
the
If
other
we
way to
don't
look at it is we
agree.
lost an article month too, and that's what that caused. We didn't lose a Murphy, so
What
let's.
is the date that it's due for the paper?
So the intention is to to receive the article by the beginning of the next month. So for August, if I was to receive that August 1st, then I would submit it in that first 2 weeks for a mid-month publication. But it's not hard and fast.
So we have to vote the month prior to be able to
For
get
the next, right, for the next month, along with the Shoreline Spotlight
So we're
article.
too late for the July.
We can do Murphy's every week, I think, if we wanted to. I think the Observer would be happy to recognize people, so.
But I mean, for this.
Historically, they were just always submitted at the same time, on the same
Okay.
communication. That's all, that's the only thing that was.
Yeah, that's what we should do. And since we have this wealth,
It'd
why
be
don't-
easier for the chairman.
Yeah, let's,
Okay.
but why don't we pick two? Like give them one for July and we have another one for August. We got it. Why not? We still have one in the bank.
Right, yeah. Because
And in
your
the
article
meantime-
was very early, actually. I mean, the things, the articles are also being submitted quite early. Oh no, yours was July, so I take that back. It was on time, right on time.
Oh, July.
Oh, what's your
So-
pleasure, Mr. Chairman?
So my pleasure would be that we would, since we haven't received it yet, that you would submit the Island Paradise Tours, and that would be submitted. And then next month, we would have one that then would go with the
With-
August submission.
right.
And then we would submit them both at the same
My
time.
big surprise. So let's make it a good one to go with my big surprise.
Well, there's
One
out.
either the other. Right.
Yeah, right. And that would give us more time,
Yeah.
actually, for
And then we still have one in the bank. Good.
doing
So all we have to decide is if we want the vet or the community foundation.
So, and I have to write both, and I have,
Who's on first?
and I have to write both of them and give you, submit for both of them. The pictures and the writing.
Because Paradise
I don't
is-
mind, I'm just asking.
Yes, okay, I'll change what I just, I'll just change exactly what I just said. We will take the July submission for Island Paradise Tours.
Right.
And we will then vote on the upcoming Murphy to submit. So what I'll do is just submit that in between the submission for next month.
I'll get it to you by the end of the week.
Perfect. Then that would settle it all.
For both of them,
And now,
and then you can.
we have two in the bank. We have the Community Foundation and the veterinarian. Is there, what's the best, how would you like to approach it?
I know
Is
that's
there
what I was
is there a
wondering.
motion for a Murphy Award out of the bank?
I'll make a motion for the veterinarian.
Yeah, I'll second that.
That's it.
Okay.
It's the veterinarian.
Are there any more motions? Or any other, is there the motion or recommend, that's a nominate? That's a nomination.
All right.
Nomination.
So you nominate them?
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay, so I make a motion that we recognize the veterinarian.
Right.
Is there a second?
It's not the veterinarian, he directed his staff to come down. So it's, I guess, the practice,
Okay,
okay?
so there's a nomination for the practice that helped in posting animal control.
And this will be in August.
Whenever they publish it.
Actually, yes, it will be.
Yes,
August.
yes.
Yes, it will
So
be.
Paradise Island Tours
It will be, it's
will
forthcoming.
be
It's
forthcoming for this month. Right.
correct.
So there'll be actually two that have run in
Right,
the paper.
not so many.
One in the
months.
beginning of the month, maybe one in the end. of the
Right,
month.
right.
That's right.
You can't have too many marks.
No.
No,
People doing good things should be
Well,
recognized.
Is it too late
Yes.
to nominate someone? Another?
we haven't closed nominations.
Okay, I have another nomination to Patty Smith.
Oh, yeah, I would miss
Generous.
that. Holy
Generous.
buckets, yeah.
For the very generous, she's the one that decided for the kids, the Beach Kids Activity Book. That money's gonna go to the printing of the Beach Kids, and I love listening to them in the background for the printing cost, which is very expensive. So I would like to nominate her for the Murphy Award for
Okay.
generous contribution.
Yeah, I think it should go in the bank. I think
Yeah.
when we're closer to it being realized, we'll
Right.
give her
Right.
Right.
credit for it.
Having said that, then I'll make a nomination for the Community Foundation for ultimately the same.
Exactly.
Well,
Same thing.
Yeah.
Aren't they in our bank?
They are.
They're in the bank, as is
Yeah.
the veterinary practice.
Oh, so but your vote is for the community foundation?
We haven't voted, we're making
Oh.
nominations now,
Oh,
there's 3 nominations on the table. There's the 2 in the bank and the new one.
Yep.
Okay. It's a good thing we're all volunteers.
So, I would say so. It might be difficult
You
to
wouldn't have jobs.
witness that, so. I know, I'm killing this one. So basically, there's 3 nominations, and actually maybe to speed this up, we'll just make a vote of the 3 nominations, and the nominated entity with the most votes will win for this month. All right?
Sure.
So, first on the list is the Community Foundation. Chair votes for that Community Foundation, so we've got 1. The veterinary practice, we've got 3, 4.
That's it.
Okay, so the vote carries 4 to 1 for the veterinary practice. And that's for August, perfect.
And that doesn't mean the community foundation isn't wonderful.
Right.
Just,
And the community foundation stays in the bank.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And also,
They're gonna win, it's
new
just a matter of
president
time.
had some health, and so I'd like to get an update on her.
Right, and actually that came up last meeting,
Yeah,
so.
but I haven't heard anything, so I'd like to get that more information. I know that we're off of members' items and reports, but I don't, Chair, can I bring up the next pop-up
Next week.
next week? Just wanted to bring it up and remind MERF members that we're doing another kids camp pop-up here at Mound on the,
19.
thank you.
Do we meet here, or
Yes.
do we meet at the beach?
Yep, we
We
meet here, and then we walk down to the beach, and I've got beach friend bingo cards, but they can either do
Good idea.
they can either do the scavenger hunt, or they can do beach friend bingo. Of course, they have to get all of them to get a bingo.
Okay, I've got that, I think, written properly and clearly, so we can follow it next month. So, having said that, let's try to keep this meeting moving if we can. With the agenda, setting the agenda for the next meeting. So, the chair actually approached Rebecca Schneider to actually attend this meeting and post setting of the agenda with the staff liaison. She informed me that there just wasn't quite enough time because of it's just such a short amount of time. Also, the FWC does, being a public agency, has requirements to go through their media people and get approvals and all that type of stuff. So, but she's kindly agreed to be even more extensive and more prepared for our August meeting. So I propose that we include her to the FWC to hopefully de-escalate the situation, to communicate, more importantly, to communicate what the situation. Again, we're sending, we're don't shoot the messenger type of things. It's so anyway, to hopefully communicate and answer questions.
So she is coming then, Steve?
Yes,
Oh,
she's
good.
agreed to come. So with your,
Great idea.
agree. Okay, so you're agreeable about that.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I would maybe suggest that meeting be light, because there's a lot to talk about. Actually, I think on the subject would be the new regulations that she came and presented the year before for imperiled shorebird breeding areas, along with some whatever other requirements and legislation that had gone through.
Yeah, I think the agenda should be
So the
minimal.
vegetation that we had just discussed, do you feel like that would be an item that we could get through? I mean, again, we've done all the heavy lifting. It would be whether or not we adopt whatever members bring to add to our suggested
Did
list.
she say how much time she needs? Like
No.
if we go from 10 to 12, is she gonna be an hour, so we have an hour to our stuff, or is she gonna be longer, you think?
I would say a minimum of an hour.
Where do
Okay.
presentations go on the agenda? Is that after public comment, or is it?
Presentation? Well, she's a guest speaker like she's been in the past, whether there's slides to
So-
show or whatever, I'm not
So guest
sure.
speaker goes on the current items or underneath the current?
Well, it would be an agenda item.
Okay.
It would be an agenda item, so we would most likely start the meeting with that.
So do we have a time
Sure, I don't-
limit on that?
No, I think as long as she takes.
How about we just put that on the agenda?
That's what I'm thinking, except that we need to
Oh,
address the
like-
vegetation.
yeah.
Vegetation.
Yeah.
And vegetation.
Right.
So
Well, however long it takes when she's done,
Yeah.
we'll take care of
go
it.
to vegetation.
Let her be first, and
Right.
we'll do what we have to do.
Well, the vegetation stuff, I mean, we've already been through, like you said, so much of
We've
it.
done all the heavy lifting, it's just
You're
now a matter
just gonna
of.
be reviewing it and saying yay or nay. Or
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, the tree ordinance is really not on it, it's just the
Right.
vegetation, and that,
Right.
we've done the heavy lifting, we have to get the documents to review again, and look at our suggestions that we had offered up, and whether or not we want to amend those recommendations to include anything we brought to the table. Does that sound right?
Right.
Right.
So there it is, vegetation and our FWC presentation.
And staff update.
Right, well, that's sort of gonna
I
be,
give it now.
so, yeah, that'll always be on there, I think, for a quick update. And then also, if in fact there was a recommendation to, or if Murph actually makes a motion to present to town council at the advisory board updates, then council update, or council report update will always be on there. So those will always be depending on what's going on. So really, it's the meat of it is what we'll discuss. So FWC and vegetation. Sound good?
Does she have a title for her talk? Because I think people will be interested. I think we might have.
Yeah, I would
people
hope
in
that the
audience.
entire community, you know,
What's your
anybody that has any type of concerns would attend
Are we-
to view it. Or, of course, the town does stream the meeting.
So what's her topic? Update, just update?
Yeah, I mean, it
Wildlife
wasn't titled.
Okay.
But basically,
Wildlife update? No.
basically, I think it's really about the new what regulations are, because again, you know, the conflict down there is, I think, is being positioned as it's a property rights, that the activities going on down there are potentially, and I'm not a lawyer, a property rights violation.
Okay.
So hopefully that sort of would be addressed. And I think those are addressed in the IBNB, or the Imperial Nesting Shorebird, INSB legislation that has gone through. So it's not opinions, it's what's the reality.
So then when I tell people that she's coming to talk to us, she's talking to us about,
But they're also, I think, they're also here to alleviate these concerns, and, you know, are they here to defend themselves against attacks? Potentially, but again, I mean, when there's conflict, you have to find resolution, so hopefully this is a step forward to finding resolution.
I think we should adopt the attitude that she's here to crow about what a fantastic year we are having bird-wise down in the South End.
I'm sure she'll include that,
I
right?
think this
Play on words
whole
there.
thing should be all positive. Yeah, again.
Why not? Why
It's full
not?
of it. I think the whole, I think people are looking at it the wrong way. It's so blasted positive.
Well, that's our opinion, and so they are the ones that are doing the stewardship down there. They are the one, that's the program. Hopefully there'll be comments about the San Carlos Beach Conservation Plan, which is, again, a plan with those property owners and condos at the very south end of the very geographically south end of the island, where there is a conservation plan in place, and from all purported reports, there's not a problem with that. And there
Right.
was never an allegation that there was a problem
Right.
with that partnership. So part of that's probably to alleviate any concerns of that, and there was never, you know. So anyway,
Right.
Aren't there there millions and millions and millions of people all over the world that travel to destinations for specific birding? Why
Sure,
would
but
the
so
town, why would,
this is part of the agenda,
Why would
setting
the
the
town-
agenda for the next
why,
meeting.
excuse me, but why wouldn't the town and tourism
Town-
take advantage of that?
I mean, unfortunately, he's not here, but I mean,
we could get
the
people from all over the world.
responsibility doesn't rest with Murph in this situation either.
Right.
There's a town,
Oh, there it is.
there's a paid town staff member that is really responsible for managing the relationships between conservation organizations, homeowners, and the town. So that
Yep.
would be interesting as well.
Would-
Maybe that could be included in the presentation of how they are involved.
It might be
in
an
a
interesting
situation
question,
there.
wouldn't it?
Yes, and also potentially,
Yeah.
all reports go to that staff liaison. So if there is conflict, that's actually a person that should be able to very accurately report on what's been reported. So,
And wouldn't those properties down on the south end
I mean, we have no
want to
enforce-
take advantage of
this isn't the
Yeah,
discussion.
this is,
No,
yeah,
no,
let's
Right,
just do
it's
this.
not the discussion, we were talking about the agenda items and those
Right.
have been set. So we can follow that up at the next meeting.
If I had a rental down there, I would do
Just
all
don't
kinds.
stir. I mean, there's enough stirring of the pot, so
I move
make a
to
motion
adjourn.
to adjourn. I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I do have to say, I will not be at the next meeting.
Oh, me too.
Okay.
We will miss you for sure.
Won't be here either.
I hope you're going someplace good.
Which is a bummer.
Well, it's a bummer. Well, it's a strain